welcome to another Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce Member Connection. I am your host, Eric Knowles, but before we get started, a word from one of our supporters.
At Convey, we're not only dedicated to solving today's biggest challenges facing healthcare organizations, we're also committed to predicting and planning for tomorrow's challenges by uniting a family of companies. We combine powerful technology with robust data analytics to deliver integrated end-to-end solutions that achieve meaningful results. Start your journey towards transformative business performance with Convey.
And welcome back. I'm your host, Eric Knowles. This is the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce Member Connection, and you already know the deal. Yeah. This is a new year, and this is new excitement. The Chamber is kicking off its 50th anniversary. And I'm more than excited to have this young man with us. He was one of the founders of the Miami-Dade Chamber back in 1974. He was about 15. Ron Frazier, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful, Eric.
Man, it's so great to have you here as one of our first guests in 2024, and you being the secretary on the board of the incorporation of the Miami-Dade Chamber back in 1974.
I mean, it was, I guess, a very thrilling occasion at that point. You know, I just celebrated my 81st birthday, so I was 31 years old when all of this happened.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh man. You know, Ron Frazier, and if you all don't know, this gentleman, you kind of shaped what Miami is. Like you said, you were 31 at that time when the Chamber was founded. And here we are in 2024, and you have seen the changes where we have come from in 74 to now. Tell us, you know, a little bit about Ron and that matriculation through being an architect and coming to Miami, because I know you're not from Miami originally.
No, I'm from Houston, Texas, and I came to Miami originally in 1969 to work as an urban planner. And at that point in time, Miami had the Model Cities program. So I was the urban planner for the Model Cities program. So I got a chance to learn a lot about Liberty City and Coconut Grove, Overtown, and all over Miami. And through that process, I got to learn the neighborhoods and people and things of this nature. And in 1972, I started my architectural firm.
Okay.
And I practiced here, basically in South Florida, all over the state of Florida, but basically in South Florida. Did a number of buildings that people may remember. The Lindsay Hopkins Technical Education Center.
Oh, really? You did that?
Yes.
Okay. I remember that.
The State Attorney's Building downtown.
Okay.
Joe Caleb Center.
All right.
MLK Office Building.
That's just a few.
few
I wouldn't even, you know, those buildings that you're talking about are very important buildings in our community. And again, when we talk about you as an architect, starting your practice in 72 and where we were in 72 and to now, and what we see now happening in our community. I mean, the Renaissance, and there's been several Renaissance that have happened. And talk about that a little bit, because when you talk about Joseph Caleb Building, when you talk about that was a Renaissance in our community.
Definitely. Well, I think people have to understand that in 1972 and in that era, they didn't have any set-aside programs, you know. So you had to be very skillful in going after public projects and things of this nature. And the odd thing about it is, you wouldn't believe this, but the only projects that we would be able to work on was those projects that were funded by the federal government. It was very hard to get projects from the city of Miami or Miami-Dade County that didn't have any federal funding.
Right.
So over a period of time, we were able to break down those barriers to begin to do projects that were funded by local money. And I was the first black architect to do a project for the Miami-Dade County School Board, which happened to be Lindsay Hopkins and WLRN radio television facility.
Wow. Well, tell folks what that is, because a lot of people, even today, probably don't know what the importance of that, Lindsay Hopkins and WLR, and talk about Lindsay Hopkins and what that was all
Lindsay
about.
Hopkins is a vocational school that's down on 20th Street and 7th Avenue.
Right.
And we were awarded that project in 1978, a long time ago.
A few years ago.
A few years. And Johnny Jones was the superintendent at that point in time.
Okay.
And it turned out to be two projects, and WLRN radio and television facility, which is channel 17.
Right,
2,
right next to the school
right
board.
next to the school board, came out of the same project.
Okay.
And so we were able to do that. The odd thing about that time frame is I had to be selected twice by the school board.
Okay.
The first selection, the school board turned it down because I was a black architect. And they asked me, how did I become an architect? And a whole bit. And they threw out that selection. So they put together another selection committee, and I won it again. And believe it or not, Bill Turner was the only black on the board at that point in time. And he told the board it was time to let it go, you know.
Wow.
The young man has achieved, you know, he's won it twice. What do you want?
Right, right. You know, it's interesting, and you know, you and I sit on several boards together fighting for opportunities for our community. And here it is back in 1978, that struggle. And the chamber basically was birthed out of that struggle because of lack of opportunity for black businesses, lack of opportunity to doing those and receiving those type of contracts.
Yes. You know, and very interesting about when the chamber was formed, the downtown chamber, which is the Greater Miami Chamber, did not want this to be a black chamber. And they lobbied us and the whole bit to keep us from forming this Chamber of Commerce. And I remember clearly the executive director at that time was a man named Lester Freeman. And I mean, they lobbied, they did everything they could. And we told them that, hey, everybody has a chamber, different neighborhoods, different cities.
Exactly.
And what's the problem with it? Well, you can always come down and join our chamber. But you have to look at the time frame. You know, in 1974 was only 10 years prior to that before they even let a black join the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce. See, that didn't happen until the late 60s.
Right.
You know, but we started it, and a number of black businesses began to grow out of it. We were able to challenge certain public policies and things like that to make life better for a lot of black businesses. And I think during the 70s, a lot of businesses started during that time frame, and they flourished for, I guess, a good 20 years.
Right. You know, we're going to have to take a break in a minute, but the one thing that you talk about is the fact that businesses flourish. Because one thing, back in the early 70s, we still only had ourselves.
Correct.
You know, talk about that just a little bit before we take a break.
Well, I think the difference between then and today is that you had to be able to work on different levels. You know, you had to be able to lobby, you had to be able to present yourself and understanding. A lot of electronic media wasn't available at that point in time. You were still dealing with paper and what have you, so you had to present yourself. And a lot of things you had to do yourself.
Right.
And I think that a lot of businesses were a lot more competent then, because they're the ones that had to go out and meet that bear every day.
Right.
You know, they didn't have a buffer. Just say we didn't have a buffer at that point in time. And you had to use your ingenuity and your wits to make sure that you did survive. And I think that a lot of black businesses would reach back and help other businesses along. So if you were able to meet with certain agencies or different businesses and open the door, then you would open opportunities for some other businesses to follow you.
Let's put a pin in it. We'll be right back. We're going to take a break and get a word from one of our supporters.
Learn and earn today at Miami-Dade College. College graduates earn 56% more than high school graduates and $1 million more in lifetime earnings. A degree from MDC is your path to greater earning power and career success. Choose from hundreds of affordable high-tech and in-demand career programs, including cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, business, and nursing. Learn and earn today at MDC and fast-track your career. Enroll now at mdc.edu/purpose.
And welcome back to the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce Member Connection. I am your host, Eric Knowles, and as I told you before the break, I'm excited because we have a legend in our studio today, Mr. Ron Frazier. Ron, you know, you don't know this, but anytime I do get an opportunity to be around you, I am. No, this is serious, man. You and others have laid the path for those like myself and others, and obviously those who are coming behind me to do what we do. I mean, you've been in the trenches fighting the fight, and you talk about back in '78 when you had to basically fight to get that contract, and today you're out there fighting for many others to get contracts.
Yeah, and I think that one of probably the best secrets in this town is the BAC Funding Corporation.
Right.
That I'm chairman and CEO of. I'm one of the original founders, and it was founded after the 1980 McDuffie riots.
Right.
By the Miami-Dade Chamber, by the way, in conjunction with the Greater Miami Chamber and the state's revitalization board. But this organization, its primary purpose is to provide funds and investments to black businesses and also to help in urban redevelopment. To this day, a lot of people do not know that the BAC owns the MLK office building.
Right.
We designed, developed, and built it, and we own it, and we lease it back to the county.
Right.
But that building is what we call sustainable value because it provides over $2.5 million a year to black businesses. The office management team is black, the maintenance companies are black, the workers are black. So it puts about $2.5 million back into this community. So that's an economic engine, and we try to help other businesses try to do things in the community. So we provide that necessary gap funding that they may need.
And that's probably when you hear small businesses, black businesses say what is their biggest challenge is finance. And can you talk about that a little bit more, about the different mechanisms that you do have?
Well,
for
we have several programs at the BAC in which we provide loans and investments. And I think the best thing that we do is that we're not bound to look at a business's credit.
Okay.
Because a lot of businesses don't have good credit and what have you. So what we've done is we worked out a system where we look at the deal to see whether that's profitable and whether or not they will make some money out of that. And we analyze it from that standpoint. The other thing we do is that the person borrowing the money has to make a personal presentation to our loan committee.
Right.
They can bring their lawyer and their accountants, but those people cannot speak. The person has to tell us what they're going to do, and we ask certain questions to see how well they are familiar with their own businesses and not just there and someone else has prepared them a nice business plan and they don't know what's in it.
Right.
So we try to make sure they know what's in it.
Right.
We have a program in which we can be a financial partner.
Okay.
And this is with a lot of businesses. We funded a business up in Palm Beach that had a contract with that airport there, and they had a big concession area and what have you, and we were able to help them get into business.
Okay.
You know, when you deal with the airports, you have the big concessionaires and you have the smaller ones that come in, and the smaller ones have to have a certain amount of capital to play in the game.
Right.
So we managed to provide them with that type of capital.
Something you just said, you help them get into business. Do you help startups?
No, we learned about startups. We don't fund startups.
Okay.
You have to be in business for at least 2 years or what have you.
Okay.
What we try to do is help businesses make money, and by creating cash flow for them.
Right.
And we try to look at whatever their projects are or their opportunities, and we let them know whether there is a profit margin. A lot of people think they have profit, but they don't have that. We used to run a contract management program where we would set and show businesses how to see the profit they're making and put it in the bank. You know, a lot of people see that.
You see new Cadillacs rolling down the street.
Yeah, misdirected funds.
Right.
You know, so we try to show them how to use their money wisely.
Right.
Because there's always ups and down cycles. So when you're riding high, you put the money away in the bank because there's going to be a low period of time. We also tell businesses that, you know, when you want to borrow money, you don't go to the bank when you're hungry. You go to the bank when you don't need any money.
Right.
Because then your attitude is different, your personality is different. If you go and you really need it, and you look like a beggar man. Right. And they could see it, right, type of situation. So we try to give people those kinds of tips and what have you.
Well, you're embarking on another thing. I know that as the BAC has been doing some scattered housing, building single-family homes, but now you are embarking on a major project for development. Talk about that in our last few minutes that we have.
Yes, we were able to get a development agreement from the county. The BAC is on a 5-acre site, which is sort of diagonal across from the MLK transit station. And we plan to build a mixed-use project on the eastern portion and build 28 townhouses for sale on the western portion. And we've started the townhouse development, and we think we will start the construction on that after the first of the year. What we're trying to do is change the paradigm in the black community. We realize that housing is a shortage, but people who make between 80 and 120% AMI can't find any housing, any place. And that's the market that we're trying to attract, to make sure that that amenity package comes back into our areas. It's not just housing, but it's the commercial bit, it's the activity centers, and those kinds of things that we're trying to make happen back in the black community.
Explain to people, again, when you say 80 to 120% of AMI, what does that mean to the average citizen?
Well, it's talking about the medium income.
Okay.
The median income for the average family in Dade County is about $45,000, $46,000 a year for a family of four. So they use multipliers to get you up. The majority of the housing that you see now in Miami-Dade County is affordable housing, but it's LIHTC, it's low-income tax credit housing. Okay. And it stops at 60%. Okay. People that make 80% of the income can't find a house or an apartment or anything to rent up to 120. So when you look at these big private development projects that are around town, the rent's too high, you can't get in that. Right. And you can't get in the ones
that are so low.
So low. So that's that medium area that we're trying to bring back into the community, you know, to keep it from being gentrified.
Okay. So if someone wanted to learn more about BAC, how can they do that?
Well, you can contact us at 305-693-3550. We have a website. You can go on the website and look for BAC Funding Corporation. There's a video that will sort of give you our history, our scope of services, and all the things that we do, and the loan programs that we have. Just in closing, so people know, BAC has been in business constantly since 1982. Okay. And over that period of time, we've loaned over $65 million just to black businesses. Wow. In this town. And we call that a success.
That's amazing success.
We also give money to nonprofits. We give about $500,000 a year to different nonprofits around town. We support a lot of programs, back-to-school programs.
And you say give, those are grants?
Those are grants.
Right.
Yes.
So those nonprofits, you better find out what's going on at BAC, reach out to Ron. But, you know, I mean, we can talk for the rest of the day about the things that you're doing. And we just talked about BAC, but there's so much more that you're doing. The 305 project, I know you've been working on that. I'm going to bring you back. We're going to talk about that. But it's really a pleasure to have you here. Like I say, you are definitely someone that this community needs to celebrate. They need to know you. I can go on and on. You know, this has been the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce Member Connection. If you want to know more about the Chamber, go to www.m-dcc.org or call us at 305-751-8648. Miami-Dade Chamber Member Connection.